Today I'm going to teach you how to make your very own homemade yogurt that will be some of the freshest, most delicious yogurt you've ever tasted. Liam Neeson makes his own yogurt, and that guy's awesome. First, you need your very own incubator. Don't have an incubator? Well, a crock pot will do just fine. Next, you're going to need 1 gallon of homogenized, pasteurized whole milk. That's right, I said it, whole milk. Next, you're going to need 1 large pot, preferably bigger than this one. Next, you'll need a thermometer. You don't need a fancy digital quick read thermometer like this one. Any old thermometer will do. Oddly enough, to make yogurt, you gotta go buy some to start with. And what we're looking for are live cultures of Lactobacillus, Streptococcus thermophilus, and others. Cheesecloth, which is available at most supermarkets. A large strainer, the larger the better. Okay, to get started, we're gonna add our entire gallon of whole milk to our large pot. Next, we're gonna heat the milk until it reaches a temperature of roughly 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And by the way, the reason we're doing this is to initially denature or kind of misfold and start clumping up some of the proteins in the milk. And this does a couple of things for us. It really helps the yogurt start to set together when we add the bacteria, and it's gonna keep it from forming curds, which we really don't want. While our milk is heating up, we're gonna grab 1 small mason jar, and we're gonna add about a half cup of our starter culture, or yogurt that we bought with live cultures in it, to the jar. The starter culture, or bacteria contained within it, acts kind of as a seed, and that's where all the magic is gonna happen in creating your homemade yogurt. But more on that later. Let's set that aside and check back on our heating milk. And it looks like we reached close enough to 200, so we're gonna cut the heat and we're gonna let it cool to 112 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's come back and check on our milk, and it looks like we've hit the mark. So now that we've hit the mark and the excess heat isn't gonna kill our bacteria, we can go ahead and add a couple of spoonfuls to our starter culture jar. Then we're gonna mix things up to help disperse our little bacteria friends and dump it back into the pot of milk. Let's add our cooled milk and starter culture into our crock pot and put the lid on. And you're really usually okay to leave this for about an hour before you check on the temperature again. While we wait, let's go over some of the basics of what is going on inside our incubator to get us yogurt. So we're gonna start out with our little bacteria here, and what this bacteria is gonna do is eat the lactose in the milk, which is a sugar, and metabolize it into lactic acid. And that lactic acid is gonna do 3 things for us. Number 1, it's gonna cause our milk to curdle, giving it that distinctive texture of yogurt. Number 2, the acidity is gonna give it that tangy flavor. And number 3, that acidity is going to protect our yogurt from other, more harmful kinds of bacteria that cannot live in that kind of environment. Before we forget, let's set our timer for at least 4 hours. You're usually good at 4 hours, but I personally like to go for 5. So let's check back in on our crock pot, and it looks like the temperature's dropped a little bit. No problem though. We'll just add a little heat back to it, and remember we're shooting for something around 112 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and the same concept applies for if you go a little too high. 115, you're really not gonna hurt anything, so just kill the heat for a little bit. So our 5 hours is up, and this is what our yogurt looks like. It's got a nice, thick texture to it, and pretty good yield thanks to that initial heating. With our strainer inside of a large bowl, we're gonna place a folded piece of cheesecloth into it, and then add as much yogurt as possible to the strainer. Now, it might not all fit in one go, so you may end up doing this more than once. Once you've spooned everything in there, you're gonna wait maybe 20 to 30 minutes, really depends on your yield, and then carefully fold over the corners of the cheesecloth, pick up the strainer, and we're gonna dump our yogurt into another fresh bowl. Give that a little stir to homogenize everything, and then we're gonna add our yogurt to your favorite mason jar. Using these large ones, we'll fill up about 3. Keep in mind as you're spooning the yogurt into your jars, if it's not quite the right consistency you're hoping for, it will firm up quite a bit in the refrigerator. Finally, we're gonna add our 3 jars of yogurt to the refrigerator and let them cool down and kind of mellow out overnight. And the next day, you should be able to enjoy some of your very own homemade yogurt. And what the heck, go crazy and add a little bit of your own homemade granola. Enjoy.